Heartwarming discovery. How checking my balance exposed an incredible millionaire's hidden truth. Jack wiped the sweat from his brow, a familiar rhythm of rusting metal and grease covering his hands as he stood in the tiny auto shop that had been in his family for generations. The small Midwest town of Elmwood leaned heavily on its quaint patchwork charm, but Jack felt the weight of its struggles as he worked each day like clockwork, rising at dawn to provide for his aging father and spirited sister, Emily. He wore his responsibilities like a second skin, each turn of the wrench a reminder of the elusive American dream that felt just out of reach. It was an ordinary afternoon when, in the midst of tending to a customer's muffler, Jack glanced at the clock. The sun dipped low, casting an orange glow through the shop's dusty windows. As the familiar hum of neighbors chatting faded into a lull, he fished his phone from his pocket and opened his banking app. A deposit that shouldn't have been there made his heart race, the numbers blurring for a dizzying moment. An overwhelming sum, linked to an anonymous account, traced back to Tom the town's golden boy, the football star who had vanished years ago under a cloud of whispered judgments. Tom's a loser, people said back then. Left his family high and dry. But what if there was more? What if, instead of the villain everyone thought, he was a man desperate for redemption? Jack's chest tightened as he processed this swirling mix of emotions, knowing that with this discovery, he was at a crossroads, one that could change everything. He dove deeper. The truth unveiled itself slowly. Tom had indeed returned home, not as the hero Elmwood remembered, but as a broken man, clad in the tattered remnants of his former glory. Unbeknownst to the community, he was seeking forgiveness not just from those he'd hurt, but from himself. Jack wrestled with this newfound knowledge. Should he confront Tom and encourage the man to share his truth? Or should he bury the discovery, shielding the town from judgment it had long fought against? As the days grew tense, the community buzzed with discussions morality, class, and the toll of economic uncertainty painted the walls of local diners and grocery shops. Jack's heart echoed the turmoil, contemplating his role in this fragile balance. That night, the local church filled with familiar faces, laughter peppered with apprehension as townsfolk gathered. The scent of summer barbecue wafted through the air, and Jack felt the heat of uncomfortable gazes. Here he was, heart-pounding, every soul eyeing him like he held the keys to a treasure chest or a bomb. Should he stand and share what he knew about Tom? Could his voice bring healing, or would it unravel the delicate fabric of the town's camaraderie? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a loud knock echoed through the wood-paneled walls, halting the room into a tense silence. Jack's heart raced. This moment could either forge unity or unleash judgment that had lingered just beneath the surface. He steeled himself, knowing that his next words wouldn't just change his fate, but perhaps the fate of Elmwood itself. Would they choose to embrace their neighbor or retreat into fear and prejudice, leaving everyone wondering? Can forgiveness bridge their divides? The knock hung in the air, suspended like a breath held too long. Jack's throat tightened as every eye turned to the door. It was the kind of moment when time seemed to freeze, where even the bustle of the church barbecue faded into the background. The townsfolk leaned forward, their faces a mosaic of curiosity and apprehension. With hesitant footsteps, he moved toward the door. Another knock came, louder this time, as if nudging him toward a decision he wasn't sure he was ready to make. Jack grasped the cool doorknob, a familiar chill creeping up his spine. What lay beyond could shatter the fragile narrative they all held. And yet, perhaps it could mend their broken pieces. As he swung the door open, the sight before him was unexpected. There stood Tom, aged and worn, but unmistakably the same boyish grin that once ignited cheers in high school stadiums. The air thickened. Jack felt his heart racing, fueled by adrenaline and a mix of dread and exhilaration. Jack, Tom spoke softly, his voice carrying a weight that seemed to resonate with the crowd gathered inside. I need to talk. Jack took a deep breath, stepping aside to let Tom in. The whispers traveled like wildfire through the church, weaving through congregants seated in rows, mixing with the sound of sizzling meat and small talk. Was this the moment Jack had feared? Or was it the opening he had hoped for? "Why are you back now, Tom?" Jack asked, his voice steadier than he felt. The question echoed in the hushed silence. "After all this time?" Tom's smile faltered as he searched for words. He squared his shoulders, the remnants of that once confident star dimmed, but not completely extinguished. "Because I can't hide anymore." The vulnerability in his tone resonated deeply with Jack. "I need to make things right, at least try. I owe it to the people I hurt." Jack glanced back at the crowd, faces painted with confusion and intrigue. He could feel the collective heartbeat of Elmwood, thumping anxiously. This wasn't just Tom's story anymore. It was about them all. "I found something out about you, Tom," Jack began, the words inching out like a slow tide. "It's not what everyone thinks. They don't know you're not just a ghost from the past." Tom's eyes widened, hope mingling with fear. "What do you mean?" "There's money, an anonymous deposit linked to your name." "I don't know the full story, but it could change everything," Jack admitted, his voice gaining strength, buoyed by the gravity of his discovery. "But you need to tell your truth first." A murmur swept through the crowd. Feelings of indignation and compassion danced in their expressions. Who was Tom? The fallen hero of their youth, or the flawed man before them? "I thought I had to leave and make something of myself," Tom said, almost to himself. "But running away didn't fix anything, and I see that now. I want to show I'm not who I was back then." "I want to redeem yourself," Jack offered, his heart thumping for both of them. Tom nodded slowly. "Yes. But I need your help, Jack, if you'll have me. I want to come clean, to face them all." Jack's gut churned, weighing his options. This was the moment. Should he guide Tom into the lioness den? Or protect the town from upheaval? Deny the chance for healing? He felt the pulse of the townsfolk behind him, holding their breath. "Let us take this one step at a time," Jack responded, resolute in his choice. "But you have to be ready for what comes next." As he spoke, the gravity of their choices lingered in the air, pregnant with possibilities. Would redemption be granted, or would the ghosts of their shared past tear them apart? The dilemma loomed, threatening to break the fragile bridge they would all have to cross together. Just as Jack contemplated the uncertain road ahead, the church door creaked again. Another figure stood waiting. The community was about to be forever changed, and they weren't alone. What revelation lay in store next? The door creaked open wider, and Jack's stomach dropped. A silhouette pressed against the sunlight. The figure was familiar, yet the years etched into their features made it a ghost of the person he once knew. Hazel, the girl who had captivated the town's hearts but left it like a storm, disappearing just before the troubles began. "Jack," she said, her voice almost breaking. "I came as soon as I heard." She hesitated, letting the words weigh like stones. The crowd buzzed with curiosity again, faces shifting from Tom to Hazel. Whispers began to grow, slicing through the air. Jack's heart raced. What was she doing here? This moment was already precarious, and now another harbinger of their past stood before them. "Hayes," Jack uttered, feeling the sting of old emotions. "What do you want?" A part of him wanted to close the door, to shut out this interruption, but he couldn't. Not when he could see the anguish in her eyes. "I need to explain," she said, stepping into the dim warmth of the church. "I didn't know Tom would be here." Tom shifted uncomfortably. He looked at her, and a flicker of something unnameable passed between them. Jack sensed the deep history that twisted through their connection, like roots in tangled earth. The tension in the room thickened. The townsfolk wore expressions that combined shock and interest. It was clear they felt the weight of this reunion, seeing them like fallen stars beginning to orbit each other again. "Things weren't as they seemed back then," Hazel said, addressing not just Jack but the whole room. "We were all children, thinking we had the world figured out." She took a deep breath, a shudder of vulnerability in her posture. "But I ran because I thought leaving was the best choice. That maybe I could outrun the mistakes, like you, Tom." Jack's hands clenched into fists. "You both left. You both hurt this town." There was anger in his voice, but it wavered. "I know," Tom interjected, his gaze fixed on Hazel. "But I've changed. I want to face this." Hazel nodded earnestly, tears pooling in her eyes. So do I. I've come back because I need to take responsibility. Not just to apologize, but to share what I've learned. What do you mean? Jack asked, suspicion rising. Would this be another layer to all the pain they had carried? I've been trying to reconcile who I am and who I was, Hazel said determinedly. When I left, I thought I had nothing to hold on to. But I learned about family, forgiveness, about the ties that bind us. And I found out about the money too, she confessed, glancing at Jack. It led me back. I thought if I could just expose the truth, maybe there's a chance to heal. The idea hung delicately in the air, its significance slowly sinking in for the townsfolk. Faces shifted from skepticism to deeper contemplation. Jack felt the buzz of uncertainty, but also a flicker of hope. What truth? Jack pressed, sensing the tension rise even higher. About the past, the choices we made, and how they connect with that fund, Hazel replied, her voice trembling yet resolute. We can't rewrite history, but we can confront it, together. Jack searched her face. Could they really start to untangle the mess they had all made? Could confronting the past let them heal? Or would it just open old wounds? Behind her, people whispered quietly, their expressions a mix of anger and understanding as they processed Hazel's sudden return. The moment hung, fragile yet electric, echoing with all the unanswered questions of their intertwined lives. You're sure you're ready? Jack asked, weighing the gravity of her words. This one to be easy. I have to be, she replied softly, meeting his gaze. As Jack prepared to respond, the excited murmurs of the crowd faded slightly, and they felt the weight of the collective past resting on their shoulders. All eyes were on them, waiting for them to take the plunge together. Would facing this truth bring solidarity or fracture the shards of their history? Just as Jack opened his mouth to speak, a loud crash echoed from the back of the church. Who had just entered, and what surprise were they bringing with them? The sound reverberated through the church like the crack of thunder, pulling everyone from their thoughts. All heads turned to the back, eyes wide with a mix of shock and fear. Jack's pulse quickened, a tight knot forming in his stomach. He took a step forward, leaving Hazel and Tom behind, instinctively wanting to shield them from whatever storm was brewing. The doors swung open, and in walked a tall figure, shadowed by the setting sun. The air shifted as the room held its breath. Jack squinted, recognizing the newcomer. It was Mark, a longtime resident of the town, known for his booming laughter and deep sense of loyalty, now marred by something darker. Mark, Jack called out, confusion lacing his voice. He had never seen his old friend look so haunted. Mark's clothes were wrinkled, hair disheveled as if he'd just clawed himself free from a maelstrom. He stepped closer, the murmur of the crowd swelling like a wave around him. I need to talk, he breathed, his voice low yet urgent. I overheard something I shouldn't have. Something about the money. Jack's heart raced, echoing the chaos around him. Mark's eyes darted from Jack to Hazel, the weight of the situation harsh and uncompromising. It's worse than you think, the fund. It's tied to some people you don't want to mess with. Tom frowned, a sharp edge of anxiety creeping into his expression. What do you mean? He asked, wary of the storm brewing in Mark's eyes. Mark gulped, glancing at the congregation with wide, fear-filled eyes. I found records. People in this town have been silenced, threatened. It goes beyond just money, there's corruption. Big, dangerous money. And it's coming, Jack. It'll be back for what they think is theirs. A hush fell over the room. The gravity of his words forced Jack to rethink everything. His mind raced through the threads of their past, old alliances, hidden secrets, and the pain still simmering just beneath the surface. Hazel's expression darkened, her earlier resolve dwindling. We can't let fear dictate our actions, she began, but doubt crept into her voice. Jack weighed her determination against Mark's trembling fear. What are you saying, Mark? Are you sure about this? Can we trust your sources? He didn't want to lose the glimmer of hope they had just begun to build. Mark stepped fully into the light, the vulnerability etched into his features palpable. You can't trust anyone, not unless you're willing to look deeper. I thought I could keep it to myself, but it's eating me alive. If we're going to confront the past, we need to know what we're really up against. As murmurs spread through the crowd, Jack felt the tension rise again. like a coiled spring ready to snap. This wasn't just about reconciliation anymore. It could escalate quickly into something far beyond them. But even as questions bubbled up, bubbling fear mixed with the old pangs of heartache. What were they about to uncover? Just then, a young girl from the back shouted, "But if we don't do it now, it'll be too late." The innocence of her voice slammed into Jack like a bolt. He felt the weight of responsibility bear down on him. They were standing on the edge of a precipice, danger looming just below. Jack struggled with the rising tide of emotions. Could they really face the shadows darkening their town together? A short silence wrapped around them as the intensity of the moment hung heavy in the air. The truth felt closer than ever, but was it a truth worth chasing? As Jack prepared to speak, ready to declare their next step, a loud thudding noise echoed again, this time from the church's foundation itself. The ground seemed to rumble. What kind of hidden world were they about to walk into? Would they be prepared to face it? Or would this be the last fight they ever took on? The rumble intensified, shaking the wooden pews and sending nervous whispers through the gathered crowd. Jack's heart raced. Panic surged like a tidal wave. He glanced at Hazel, whose face was a mix of fear and defiance, and caught Tom's worried eyes, reflecting the same anxiety he felt. Mark took a step back, eyes wide, as if the very walls were closing in. "We need to move," he yelled, urgency spilling over. "This isn't just a meeting anymore. It's a warning." The girl who had first shouted, wide-eyed and trembling, looked at Jack. "What do we do?" Her innocence struck him deeply, a stark reminder of what was at stake. The thud came again, louder this time, followed by a muffled crash. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was about to happen would change everything. "Everyone listen," he shouted, trying to rally the congregation. "We don't know what that is or who is behind it, but running one to help us. We need to stand together." The atmosphere shifted slightly, people exchanging glances, drawn by Jack's conviction. Mark nodded, still visibly shaken but steadying himself. "Yes, right. I didn't come here to scare you. I came here because we have to face this head-on. There's too much at risk." Hazel stepped forward, her courage igniting. "If they want to silence us, we have to be louder. We can't let fear tear us apart. This is our town, our home." She glanced toward the girl and smiled gently, as if to reassure her that not all hope was lost. The murmurs grew into a wave of support. "What do we do?" someone in the crowd asked. Jack could feel the weight of expectations resting on him like a tight rope stretched high above the ground. "First, we figure out if we can find out where that noise is coming from," he said, trying to find his own resolve. "We need allies and those who are willing to fight beside us." Just then, the doors swung open again, this time slamming against the walls. Another figure stepped into the flickering light, an elderly man, frail and well-known to all. Old Mr. Henderson, who had once been the town's unofficial historian. Eyes filled with a deep wisdom, he looked at them with a fierce intensity. "They're coming back, aren't they?" he stated, as if he had just arrived from a past where shadows danced at the edges of their town. "I thought we buried that darkness. What have you uncovered?" Jack's breath caught. This was someone who had seen the town's history, someone who might hold the key to understanding everything. "Mr. Henderson," he said, taking a step forward, "we need your help." "Mark found something." "Not now, Jack. You don't realize how much danger you're in," Mr. Henderson interrupted, his voice rising. "It goes beyond just money. Lives were lost, and they will silence anyone who dares pry into their business." The air thickened with tension, the electricity of past horrors merging with present fears. Jack felt his stomach twist in a knot. They had been stirred from a restless past, but now it felt like they were standing at the edge of a chasm, staring into the abyss. "Jack," Hazel whispered, reaching for his hand. He turned to look at her, and he could see the spark of determination glimmering beneath the worry. "What if," she began, her voice barely audible but laced with urgency, "what if this time, we turn the tables? What if we fight back?" Questions flooded Jack's mind. Should they dive deeper into this darkness? But as he looked around the room, filled with familiar faces ready to support him, something inside began to shift. "Maybe it's time to reclaim what was lost," Jack finally said, his voice steadying. "Maybe it's time we found out what really happened, and show them we're not afraid anymore." With hearts pounding in unison, they stood united, a small army ready to confront the shadows. The thuds continued, reverberating through the ground beneath them, signaling a storm on the horizon. But as they prepared to make their next move, a loud crack split the air, followed by a blinding flash of light. What had they unleashed? What secrets would the light reveal about the past they thought they knew? The light faded just as quickly as it had flared, plunging the room into dimness. People blinked, dazed, as the echoes of the crack reverberated in their ears. Jack felt an urge to step toward the source of the sound, but his feet felt glued to the floor, uncertainty washing over him like a cold wave. "Is everyone okay?" Jack's voice cut through the haze. He scanned the faces of his friends, and relief washed over him when he saw nods and murmurs of assent. Mr. Henderson, however, had gone pale. "They've noticed us," he whispered. "Whatever we've stirred has its eyes on us now." "What do you mean?" Tom asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. "What did you uncover?" Before Mr. Henderson could answer, the ground beneath them trembled once more, this time with a low, haunting growl. It felt like something was awakening, something long buried, clawing to the surface. "We need to arm ourselves," Hazel said quickly, her grip tightening on Jack's hand. Her pulse quickened, and Jack could feel it through their joined fingers. "It's no longer just about standing together. We need to protect what matters." Jack nodded. "If they want to intimidate us, they picked the wrong crowd," he declared, trying to rally the fearsome resolve building in his heart. Mark stepped forward. "We can gather supplies, get flashlights, anything we can use. There's an old storage building near the edge of town. If we move now, we might get there before the next wave hits." Jack felt the pulse of adrenaline rise. The old building had been left alone for years. Everyone knew it held remnants of the past, old tools, dusty boxes, maybe even some forgotten artifacts of the town's history. "Let us go," he said, determination igniting his voice. They moved as one, a small unit amalgamated by fear but propelled with purpose. As they exited the church, however, the former sanctuary of hope now felt like a crumbling fortress. Outside, the air was thick with unease, shadows waltzing around the edge of the streetlights. Jack led them through the quiet streets, his heart thumping in sync with every hurried step. The whir of owls echoed in the distance, a reminder that not all noise was sinister. Yet, every creak of the old wooden planks beneath their feet felt like a countdown, drawing nearer to something inevitable. Arriving at the storage building, they hesitated at the door, hearts pounding as if they could burst through the frames of their chests. "No matter what we find, we stay together," Jack urged, locking eyes with each member of the group. The fierce nods from Hazel, Tom, and Mark ignited something primal in him, a sense of belonging that overpowered the fear. As they entered, the scent of mildew assaulted them, but Jack pushed past it, illuminating their surroundings with a weak flashlight. Dust motes danced in the air, and in the far corner, a heavy tarp lay bunched on the floor. Curiosity edged Jack forward, and as he reached out, a jolt of energy coursed through him. "Look!" Hazel exclaimed, her eyes wide. With a quick yank, Jack pulled the tarp aside, and what lay beneath made his heart drop into his stomach. A multitude of old files, hardbound books, and relics, each one pulsating with history they thought they had buried. What secrets did they hold? "Are these?" Tom stammered, moving closer to the trove. "Evidence." "Yes," replied Mr. Henderson, his voice trembling. "Evidence of everything that was lost and everything they want to keep hidden." Jack felt a chill curl down his spine as he realized the magnitude of their discovery. They were stepping into dangerous territory. In their quest for truth, they had just crossed an unforgiving line. But as Jack turned to face his friends, he saw their determination mirrored in their eyes. They were ready to embrace whatever came next. "Are we ready for this?" he asked, quieter now. They all nodded, but as the echo of a distant chant suddenly drifted through the building, an instinctive dread settled in Jack's gut. Someone was close, and they were definitely not alone. What awaited them just beyond the threshold? Would they be prepared for the true confrontation with the darkness they were about to face? Jack's breath caught in his throat. The chant, a haunting melody in an unfamiliar language, reverberated through the dusty walls of the storage building. It didn't sound far, and the sense of urgency rushed back into his veins, fueling his instincts. "Did you hear that?" Hazel whispered, her grip on Jack tightening. Tom nodded, looking pale but resolute. It's coming from outside, maybe? He suggested, casting nervous glances toward the back door, which led into darkness. Mr. Henderson took a deep breath, steadying himself. We should stay low, investigate, but silently. We could be trespassing in something much bigger than we realized. Bigger than the earthquake? Mark scoffed, but his tone held an edge of fear. Jack silenced everyone with a raised hand. He swung the flashlight toward the sound. Shadows danced violently at the beam's command, eerie eyes seeming to glint back from the edges of their narrow world. Now isn't the time to fight, he urged, focusing on the task at hand. We find what we need, and then we get the hell out of here. He turned to the piles of documents before them. One of the hardbound books caught his eye. It was thick, its leather cover cracked with age. He pulled it closer, feeling the weight of years under his fingertips. There was something defiant in cracking open the past. As he flipped it open, the pages began to flutter wildly as if stirring to life again. Look! Jack shouted, letting the chaos around them add to his excitement. These are ledgers. They have names, dates, transactions. Transactions? Tom echoed, leaning in as the faint light flickered above their heads. What kind of transactions? Not just town history, Mr. Henderson murmured, his voice low and cautious. This could be evidence of corruption. Whatever happened all those years ago, it's written here. The chanting grew louder, more insistent. It clawed at Jack's mind, pulling him back. We have to hurry. He felt the pressure of time weighing down on him. His heart raced as he scanned through the pages, absorbing the details. Business names he recognized, townsfolk who had vanished, controversial figures whose ties to this building were evident. They were all linked, and he realized they were not just relics. They were lives intertwined in a web of secrecy. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the building, sending a jolt through everyone. The chanting stopped, replaced by a commanding voice, low and deep. Return what is ours, it reverberated, a chilling reminder that they were trespassers in a place they did not belong. Did you hear that? We need to go, Hazel urged, looking more terrified than ever. Jack's mind raced. They needed a plan. Look, we have enough evidence to back us up. We just need to escape first. He glanced one last time at the books scattered at their feet, and then moved towards the door with renewed urgency. Their escape might be short-lived, but if they could make it out, they had a chance to expose everything. As they reached for the doorknob, it rattled violently from the other side. Heart racing, Jack threw a glance over his shoulder. The shadows in the corners seemed to pulse, alive with anticipation. Jack! Tom hissed, eyes wide. We can't let them take it back. But could they stand their ground? Would they be swallowed by the darkness they awoke? As Jack twisted the knob, he could feel the weight of countless eyes watching him, hungry for the truth they were about to unleash. What awaited them outside those doors? Would they be met with salvation or the reckoning of the past? The doorknob turned, and Jack's heart slammed in his chest. The moment the door creaked open, a gust of frigid air poured in, swirling around them with a scent of damp earth and decay. He squinted against the sudden rush of darkness, his flashlight beam slicing through the night beyond. Go, he urged as he stepped out, the others hesitating just long enough for him to worry they might change their minds. Outside, the world was shrouded in shadows, the moon's feeble light glinting on something metallic in the distance. They were in an overgrown courtyard, surrounded by tall weeds and crumbling stone walls. Jack's gut tightened at the thought that they had stumbled upon something ancient, something that didn't belong to any of them. Where are we? Mark asked, panic etched on his face as he glanced around. Hazel's grip on Jack's arm tightened, her eyes darting left and right. It feels wrong out here. Wrong is exactly what we're looking for, Jack said, his own fear palpable. Let us move. They edged forward, staying low, peering into the dimness for any signs of life or movement. The heavy silence throbbed around them, almost suffocating. Jack led the way to what looked like a crumbling stone altar at the far end of the courtyard. The surface was slick with moisture, and ancient symbols were carved deeply into the stone. He reached out, tracing a finger over the lines, feeling the coolness of the granite beneath his touch. What if Tom started hesitating? What if this is what they're chanting about? Then we need to study it, Mr. Henderson chimed in, moving closer. Every symbol could tell us a piece of this puzzle. Just then, a flicker of movement caught Jack's eye. In the corner of the courtyard, he noticed a figure, but when he turned the flashlight in that direction, there was nothing but the inky blackness beyond the altar. It felt like the shadows themselves were watching. Did you see something? Hazel whispered, leaning closer to Jack. Maybe, he replied, forcing his voice to steady. He had to regain control of the fear festering around them. We can't dwell on it now. We need to figure out what these ledgers mean in relation to this place. They all gathered around the altar, adrenaline pumping as they began comparing what they had learned from the ledgers to the symbols etched into the stone. With every revelation, a strange sensation washed over Jack, a mix of anticipation and dread. What if they were unlocking something they weren't meant to? As the group worked through the chilling discovery, a sudden loud thump echoed through the courtyard. Jack jumped, spinning around. Was that just the wind? Tom lied, but his face betrayed him, eyes wide with fear. Or something else, Mr. Henderson murmured, peering into the dark, his face a mask of unease. Another crash, louder this time, resonated through the air, vibrating in their chests like a distant drum warning of an approaching storm. Jack felt the heat drain from his face. Let us finish this, he said, voice cracking slightly. They had to find out what was hidden in this pit of secrets before the enormous weight of it crushed them. He leaned closer to the altar, whispering the words written on the ledgers, determined to uncover the connection. Suddenly, the temperature dropped further, and the ground trembled beneath them. The chanting began again, louder, echoing around them, filling the air with a dark promise. Run! Jack yelled, instinctively stepping away from the altar. But as they turned to escape, a blinding light erupted from the altar, illuminating the courtyard in an otherworldly glow. They were frozen, eyes wide, stunned into silence. What had they awakened? And would they be able to escape the dark legacy creeping closer with each heartbeat? The light pulsed like a heartbeat, bathing the courtyard in a ghostly shimmer that danced across their terrified faces. Jack's breath hitched in his throat. He felt exposed, unmoored in this new world that seemed to emerge from the dark, the moment stretching like a thin thread pulling them toward an inevitable confrontation. Move. Get behind something, he shouted, instinct driving him as he jerked Hazel toward a crumbling wall. The others followed suit, crouching low, their hearts racing like wild animals. Jack's pulse pounded in his ears, drowning out the ominous chanting that echoed all around them, swelling and retreating like the tide. From behind the jagged wall, Jack caught glimpses of the altar-esque glow. The runes carved into its surface seemed to writhe, morphing into shapes he couldn't comprehend. Every flash of light brought a shiver of fear, a visceral response that clawed at the pit of his stomach. Within the shimmering energy, forms began to materialize, blurred silhouettes that twisted and turned, crawling toward them with an unsettling grace. What is that? Mark gasped, his voice shaky as he shielded his eyes from the brightness. I don't know, Jack admitted, dread wrapping its icy fingers around his spine. But we have to get out of here. Now. Hazel squeezed his arm, her eyes wide and filled with both wonder and fear. We can't leave, Jack. What if we're meant to uncover this? What if this is what we've been searching for? No, he insisted, pulling her closer. I'm not risking your life for some ancient mystery. We don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know what they want. The chanting intensified, vibrating through them. Each word dripped with an alien energy that raised the hairs on their arms and made their skin prickle. A sudden silence fell, suffocating and heavy like a thick blanket. Jack dared to peek around the wall. The altar had transformed. The light flickered with a dangerous unpredictability. Where he expected to see the spectral shadows, now stood human figures, their features obscured. Yet their intentions hung in the air like dark smoke. One stepped forward, a piercing gaze fixing on Jack. A chill seized his breath. The figure bore the unmistakable traits of a woman, long hair flowing like liquid night, shadowed eyes that seemed to see right through him. You have awakened us, she intoned, her voice resonating in eerie harmony with the chanting. What do you want? Jack blurted out, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. To reveal the truth, she replied, the words echoing around the courtyard. But truth comes with a cost. Are you willing to pay? A surge of panic flashed through Jack. The others shifted nervously. What cost? He demanded, growing defensive. Knowledge, she said softly, reaching out a ghostly hand. And the sacrifice of one who seeks it. What do you choose? Jack glanced at his friends Hazel, Mark, Tom, and Mr. Henderson. Would any of them be willing to pay such a price? Did they even know what was at stake? He had wanted to uncover the truth. He had driven them into this chaos, but now, facing the cost, he felt dwarfed by the weight of it all. Jack, we need to decide, Hazel urged, her voice trembling. Are we really ready for this? What lay shrouded in the shadows of the altar could either strengthen their bonds or tear them apart forever. As the air crackled with tension, Jack took a deep breath, feeling as if time itself had suspended. Hold on, he whispered. Let us see what happens. But just before he could speak again, a deafening roar erupted from the darkness, and a new shadow surged toward them, bringing a vibration that echoed deep inside their hearts as the choice loomed ever closer, one that would bind them all together or separate them forever. Jack stood frozen, his mind racing. The figure before them emanated a power so deep it filled the air with a thick, electric tension. What do you need from us? He asked, voice shaking but resolute. We require one who has brought forth this reckoning, the apparition replied, her form shimmering like a flame. One willing to confront their past and reclaim what is justly theirs. Hazel's eyes flared with determination. We're all willing, she declared, glancing at each of them. We're in this together. Tom, feeling the weight of his shame and regret, spoke up. I've tried to run from my past. Maybe this time should be different. No. Jack shouted, panic surging through him. We can't offer anyone up. There's got to be another way. But the woman merely tilted her head, her expression devoid of malice yet heavy with expectation. The choice is not for me to make. It is yours. Mark shuffled back, fear evident in his posture. Why us? What do you want with our town? We are bound to a history you are only beginning to unravel. To move forward, a sacrifice must be made. Her eyes flickered, as if waiting for an answer, her patience thinning. Jack's heart raced. What history? What sacrifices? In that moment, he felt the weight of every secret that had haunted their lives. It wasn't just Tom's failure or Hazel's escape. It encompassed the entire town's struggle. Each heartbeat drummed louder, urging him to act to save them or plunge them into darkness. But something clicked in Jack's mind. What if we give you the truth? He proposed, desperation fueling his words. What if we uncover everything you want us to see without a sacrifice? We'll confront our past together. At that, a rumble echoed deeper, the figures surrounding the altar shifting in response. Truth is a fickle master, the woman cautioned, her voice cascading like a waterfall. It may unravel bonds you thought were strong. Then let it unravel, Jack affirmed, stepping out from behind the wall, heart pounding. I won't let anyone be left behind. He felt the warmth of support at his back, Hazel's hand gripping his as she joined him. Mark, Tom, and Mr. Henderson followed, the collective strength of their commitment illuminating the courtyard. We face our truth together. Hazel's voice rose above the tension, vibrant and fierce. And if that means tearing down our lies, so be it. A flicker of surprise rippled through the figures. They exchanged glances, and for a breath, the chanting paused, a veil of stillness draping over them like a thin mist. Very well, the spectral woman replied, her form fluctuating with anticipation. Reveal your past, and know that we will guide you through the storm it brings. Jack watched as the figures stepped back, the light around the altar dimming to a low glow. The air shifted, pulling back the darkness like a heavy curtain. Will it hurt? Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Change often does, she replied cryptically. But sometimes pain is the path to redemption. Jack's resolve solidified as he addressed the shadowy forms. We'll dig into our past. We'll share our stories and face our fears. Together we're stronger. The woman nodded, enigmatic approval gleaming in her shadowed eyes. Then prepare. Your truth begins now. Instantly the ground shook again, but this time it felt different. The air thickened, swirling with memories, images of Elmwood flickering like film strips. Jack saw the town as history flash before him. Laughter at the high school football games, struggle and economic downturns, faces filled with despair and hope alike. Each moment was raw, tangible, and his own emptiness felt inseparable from it all. Remember who you are, the elusive figure's voice echoed. Connect with each memory that has shaped you. Gathering his courage, Jack closed his eyes, letting the flood of images rush over him. Each was tied to a memory he could embrace, each a thread woven into the town's fabric. Jack, Hazel's voice broke through his reverie like sunlight. He opened his eyes to find their group forming a circle, hands clasped tight in unity. She smiled, her expression brightening the shadows that loomed above them. We're not alone anymore. The truth is ours to share. Together, Tom echoed, looking around at the small group bonded by pain and courage. As if responding to their affirmation, the light around the altar surged, illuminating the courtyard fully. The figures began to dissolve, returning to the shadows from which they had come, but not before a final assurance. The power of truth is boundless. Use it well. The night deepened, but a new warmth suffused the space, and Jack felt the chains of his past lift the weight of his family, friends, and town finally resting in his hands instead of crushing him beneath it. They stood tall, their hearts unburdened by the shadows of fear. Let us get to work, Jack said, a confident smile breaking through. As they turned to head back into the town, ready to confront whatever awaited them, he felt the thrill of possibility ripple through him. The storm would not break them, it would only fortify this chosen family. And as they stepped forward, light pouring from the old altar into the heart of Elmwood, it was clear. They were just getting started. Their journey had transformed, no longer merely seeking redemption, but rebuilding a community, united in their truth and determined to challenge the darkness together. Now, if you found this story heartwarming and transformative, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our next exclusive tales. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help it reach others. And don't just keep it to yourself. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your words make a difference, and the world deserves to see the power of truth and togetherness. Don't wait not even one more second to share.